You really can't escape it these days, can you? This whole self-improvement thing?
No, it's everywhere.
Like every time you scroll, every chat, someone's on a journey or sharing their latest hack.
Right, the productivity tips, the transformation stories, it's constant.
It really makes you stop and think, like, what's actually driving all this? What's underneath?
That's a great question. It's this relentless drive, isn't it? To optimize, to become this better self. It feels very characteristic of our time.
Yeah.
You see it in, this super elaborate morning routines, the almost religious dedication to productivity apps.
Oh, definitely. I know someone, let's call her Sarah, marketing manager, super sharp.
Okay.
Up at dawn, mindfulness, journaling, vision board, the whole 9 yards. Weekly coaching, stacks of self-help books.
It sounds familiar.
And outwardly, hugely successful. But when you actually talk to her, there's this vibe,
Yeah.
this sort of tension. Like she's always running, but never quite getting there.
That's a really telling example. And, from a certain psychological perspective, maybe a Freudian one, you could see that intense focus.
Well, it kind of mirrors what Freud talked about with the rat race of the ego.
The rat race of the ego. Explain that a bit.
It's that feeling deep down that no matter how much you achieve, it's never enough. You're always striving, always falling short somehow.
Right.
And Sarah's routine, all those rituals, they almost look like modern versions of the kinds of repetitive behaviors Freud saw in his patients. Not physical compulsions maybe, but mental ones.
Exactly. Like instead of having to flick a light switch 10 times, you have to track your macros or do your gratitude journal perfectly.
Precisely. The same underlying mechanism, perhaps, just channeled differently.
And then you layer on these promises, right? The instant fixes. The weekend retreat that will change your life forever.
Oh, the quick fixes. Tony Robbins walking on fire. Marie Kondo promising inner peace through tidying up.
Yeah, it feels a bit like magical thinking almost, dressed up as self-help. You've hit on something key there, that desire for rapid, almost effortless change. It really taps into what Freud called wish fulfillment.
Wish fulfillment. Like daydreaming.
Kind of, yeah. Or even leaning into magical thinking. This deep human desire for transformation without doing the really hard, messy internal work. And isn't it ironic we live in this supposedly rational scientific age, but we're embracing these almost irrational beliefs in instant change?
Maybe as a way to dodge the deeper anxieties.
That's a strong possibility. It's easier to focus on optimizing your sleep schedule than confronting, say, existential dread.
Right. Keep busy. Keep optimized.
Keep striving for that elusive best self.
Ah, yes, the best self. Everyone's chasing it. What even is that? Like some kind of ultra-productive, always positive robot.
That's a slippery concept, isn't it? And
Right.
a Freudian view might see this relentless pursuit differently, maybe as sublimation.
Sublimation, how so?
Well, Freud talked about channeling primal drives, aggression, sexuality into socially acceptable activities like art or work. Perhaps today, that energy is being sublimated into these intense self-optimization projects. Your spreadsheets, your habit trackers, your perfectly curated personal brand.
So managing your inbox becomes the new masterpiece. Networking becomes the new.
Well, think about it. Channeling competitive, maybe aggressive, impulses into climbing the career ladder, or redirecting libidinal energy into building a massive professional network or an influential online presence.
So all this effort, this constant striving, is it really about growth, or is it more like running away from the messy stuff inside?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
If a modern-day Freud were scrolling through our feeds, all the motivational quotes, the carefully curated vulnerability, they might see more than just aspirations. They might see, well, reflections of repressed desires, projections,
Yeah.
defense mechanisms playing out in public.
Like our Instagram feed is our subconscious made visible. Wow.
In a way, yes. A kind of modern dream symbolism. Every filter choice, every caption, potentially revealing something hidden.
That's unsettling. And you mentioned anxiety earlier, the anxiety under the success.
Yes, that pervasive feeling that often fuels the self-help machine. That sense of unease, maybe what Freud called free-floating anxiety.
Free-floating, like it's not attached to anything specific.
Exactly, just this background hum of not good enough, or something's wrong, or I'm falling behind, and that fuels the need for the next goal, the next achievement.
Which ties into things like visualization, right? Picturing your success, that's huge in coaching.
Huge. And again, from one perspective, it's strategic goal setting.
But from another,
It looks a lot like wish fulfillment, creating a mental fantasy of the desired outcome. It's like taking Freud's idea that dreams show unconscious wishes and turning it into a conscious tool.
without maybe asking why we need that fantasy so badly in the first place.
Precisely. We focus on manifesting the future, maybe to avoid the present.
And the relationship with the coach themselves. Sometimes that feels really intense, like you really need their approval.
Transference. That's a classic concept.
Transference, remind me.
It's when you unconsciously transfer feelings and expectations from past significant relationships, often parents, onto someone in the present, like your therapist or your coach.
So the coach becomes this kind of idealized parent figure, the one who will finally give you the validation you crave.
It can certainly happen. They become this authority figure whose approval feels incredibly important. You feel pressure to perform, to show progress, to trust the process, as they say.
Which could mean your self-worth gets tied up in their opinion, not your own internal sense.
It's a potential pitfall, yes. Relying on external validation rather than building internal self-acceptance.
And when you fail. Because you inevitably do sometimes. The self-help world is great at reframing that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Failure is just feedback. It's a learning opportunity.
Which sounds positive.
And it can be,
Okay.
but it can also be rationalization, a defense mechanism.
How so?
It lets you avoid the discomfort of maybe admitting this goal was unrealistic, or maybe I'm just not good at this, or even maybe this whole system isn't working for me. It smooths over the cracks.
Okay, yeah. And what about limiting beliefs? Everyone's trying to smash their limiting beliefs.
Another fascinating one. It's almost like projection, isn't it?
Projection, like blaming something else?
Sort of. Taking your own internal anxieties, your fears, your insecurities, and projecting them outward onto this concept of limiting beliefs. Now it's an external enemy you can fight, rather than something inside you that you need to understand.
Wow. So you're battling your beliefs instead of your actual anxiety.
It externalizes the struggle, makes it feel more manageable, perhaps.
It really is amazing how these deep psychological patterns seem to play out in this very modern context, even basic drives.
Like aggression being channeled into ambition, libido into personal branding.
Yeah. Everything gets sort of optimized for the hustle.
Sublimation and overdrive, you could say. Libido, in the broad Freudian sense of life energy, gets poured into career, status, online persona, the marketable self.
And anxiety itself. It's not a warning sign anymore. It's fuel. You should feel uncomfortable if you're growing.
Right, a complete inversion. What Freud saw as a symptom needing investigation is now a requirement for success. Productivity fuel. It's a huge cultural shift.
So if our social media is like a dream diary.
Filled with symbols of our unconscious desires, fears, defenses,
Yeah.
the curated perfection, the performative vulnerability, the before and after shots.
Then the coaching industry is kind of the dream factory.
I like that. Yeah, producing and selling these powerful symbols of success, transformation, happiness, tapping right into our deepest hopes and insecurities.
Which brings us to a slightly prickly idea. Could this whole self-improvement obsession be, well, a kind of acceptable narcissism?
The narcissism paradox, perhaps.
Paradox.
Well, the intense focus on the self-tracking progress, sharing the journey, seeking validation for your transformation, it can inflate the ego in a way that looks like self-awareness, but might actually be self-absorption.
Like you're constantly polishing your own reflection.
Exactly. Think about constantly posting progress updates. Even with good intentions, it can easily slip into needing that external applause, that validation, overshadowing real internal work.
So you end up maybe less connected to others, less present, because you're so busy documenting your own improvement.
It's the narcissus myth updated for the digital age, isn't it? Trapped by the reflection, unable to connect authentically. Every experience gets rated. Did this help my growth?
Yeah. And the way people keep going back for more. Another course, another coach, even if the last one didn't quite deliver that promised transformation.
Reminds you of repetition compulsion, doesn't it?
That's Freud again, right? Repeating patterns.
Exactly. Unconsciously replaying old dramas, setting goals, hitting a wall, feeling inadequate, seeking a new solution. Lather, rinse, repeat. Could it be echoing earlier patterns, maybe from childhood, of seeking approval or overcoming perceived deficits?
So maybe we're not actually moving forward, just repeating a cycle in new self-helpy ways.
It's a possibility to consider.
And this constant focus on becoming someone better. There's a cost, isn't there? Like the present just isn't good enough.
That feels very real. This obsession with the idealized future self can definitely breed dissatisfaction with the present self. A low-level constant hum of anxiety, I'm not there yet.
Kind of like Freud's discontent of civilization, that tension between what we want and what society expects.
But internalized now, the pressure isn't just from society, it's from this internalized ideal of the ever-improving self.
Which makes you, the listener, maybe pause and think about your own relationship with all this coaching, this self-help stuff.
Yeah, are you using these tools to genuinely explore something deep?
Right.
Or are they more like polishing the surface? Is the change real or a really well-constructed defense?
Because some of the solutions offered, they do feel a bit dreamlike, don't they? Appealing, simple. But do they get to the root of why we feel this constant need to improve?
It's like the manifest or content of a dream, the surface story that might hide a deeper meaning. We need to ask why the relentless drive. What's it really about?
So the final question, I guess. Is this hunger for change real growth? Or is it just neurotic repetition? Are we moving forward or just running in place with fancier sneakers and better hydration?
And maybe there's no single answer. Perhaps the real work isn't just achieving the goals, but understanding why we set them in the first place. Maybe, just maybe, true transformation isn't about becoming someone else entirely, but about finding a way to accept who you are right now.
A radical thought in today's world.
Isn't it? And yet,
Yeah.
that urge to find the next book, the next technique, it's still there, isn't it? The cycle continues. Always more to explore.